Alrighty, thank you, and welcome back to a slightly twisted female. The most, nah, I can't stand the most hated turf on the internet. There are a lot of hated turfs on the internet. And hold on for 1 second, guys. Oh my God. All right, so we are going to talk a little bit more about why is this on? Oh, okay. Am I on? Why can I not? Oh, here we go. Um, sorry guys, hold on. Wait, I'm pausing the stream for 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, my bad. I'm back. All right, so we are going to discuss Phil Illy round 2. We're going to have to stay a little bit focused because I have to go volunteer at my daughter's school today in a little bit. So let's just get right into this. Behind me, you will see a meme that was liked by Leah Thomas. That says AGP trans, and we have a trans-identifying male looking in the mirror with a visible physical reaction to his own appearance. And this is kind of sums up basically what autogynephilia is. It is the sexual attraction of a male who is sexually attracted to the idea of himself in a female body. So it is, in a sexual target inversion where, they're attracted to themselves. It's complicated, and so we have this grifter named Phil Illy, who's a literal clown. He's a clown performer, who, and really quick, who went to in November, showed up to the genspect conference, a wider lens in Denver, Colorado, and he went there wearing this outfit, and it basically overshadowed like the entire event, and it was like the main thing that was discussed. Somebody, which is like hilarious to me, but somebody, I guess whoever is in charge of the social media, Stella O'Malley, of course, claims it wasn't her because nothing's ever her. Somebody, how could they have somebody who has a Magdalene Burns profile picture who's what, like defending this? Oh, let's see. Oh, no, cool, of course. Okay, good. It's Magdalene Burns' profile picture is on the right side of this. So, all right, so here we go. Here's a picture of this man. He goes by Phil Illy. His handle on Twitter is autogynephilic. It's so cringe. It's like his whole shtick is to show up in gender critical spaces and basically cause, an uproar by claiming that he's like a proud autogynephile. He wrote some 750-page book, which Exelanzic had read, I think, at least a good portion of it, and she suggested that she believes that it's like at least partially AI generated. And I looked at some of it and I like totally agree. And it's like these people, these so-called academics who are already responsible for gender ideology are all like, treating him as if he's like a legitimate, like, researcher. Like Benjamin Boyce is like, oh, so you're like a researcher, aren't you? By like research, it's like literally doing like what I do with you guys on the stream. It's just like Googling stuff. It's so cringe. And like I see a lot of his ideas and things that he talks about are literally taken from these like PubMed sources. So, autogynephilia is a concept that originates with sexologist Ray Blanchard. And he published a paper in 1989, describing a form of, male to female transsexualism that he calls autogynephilia. So auto, which is like self, gyne, again, gyna, which is, female, and then philia. Philia is like a sexual, like just like a sexual perversion, basically, or a sexual interest. And so it's like a autogynephilia. It's like self female in like sexual interest. So sexual interest in the self as a female form. And then, it's been like widely contested by like queer theorists and all this sort of stuff because it exposes, the reason why they push back against the concept of autogynephilia so hard is that it exposes transness for what it really is, which is, it's rooted in like sexual perversion, right? And it's not this like legitimate internal sense of self that's separate from your sexuality. It's fully intertwined with sexuality. So we have this guy Phil Illy, who his whole shtick, he's a clown performer. He's like, and allegedly, and I'll say it real nice and big, okay? Allegedly, a meth addicted, he is a clown performer, we know that, and he is goes on these like meth benders. If everyone's trying to pretend that he's like some like legitimate guy, hold on guys, I gotta take this call. I'm pausing the stream, don't get off, I'm pausing. One organization who started off as being a resource for parents, so it's really interesting. If you do an image search of genspect headers, it kind of chronicles like the life, like the sort of history of like the changes that they've gone through, of what they describe themselves as. Nobody really knows what genspect really is. And Stella O'Malley herself, Stella O'Malley is this Irish woman who started genspect, is like the, like, I don't know, what is it, like the CEO or the president or whatever of genspect. And herself can't even answer the question of what is genspect. Kelly J. Keene, after this whole genspect Denver kind of had like, and I love KJK, and she just kind of had like a very weak conference where she like confronted Stella, but it was a little noodly, unfortunately, and I think it's because there's, it's just politically, she felt like she didn't want to go too hard on Stella. Stella can't even fully answer what genspect is, and says, well, it's basically, and it started off as a, so again, if you Google image search them, right? So you look at this one, it says genspect, a voice for parents with gender questioning kids. So they originated as an organization. When I first heard about genspect, like way back when I was first getting into this whole topic, that's what I understood them to be, that they were like supposed to be like a resource. They were like an alternative to Mermaids, which is like a UK based pro-gender organization that was directed at children. It's a charity that's directed at like basically affirmation model of gender therapy for children. And then genspect kind of positioned itself as being like an opposition to that, an alternative for parents who didn't want an affirmation only model. So as you can see here, it says, like to my right, genspect, a voice for parents with gender questioning kids. Now, as recently as December, November 2023, Stella O'Malley is basically saying it's a political lobby group whose new aim is to replace WPATH. WPATH is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. It was originally the Harry Benjamin Association for whatever. And as far as I can see, genspect is very much WPATH like 2.0 or WPATH light. To me, it feels like a controlled opposition to curtail the real efforts of gender critical movement. A lot of these people are TRAs, right? They're TRAs, they're TRA light, and really just straight up TRAs in so many ways. So anyway, so they had this big conference where they're following on WPATH, and then in November they had this guy show up, and of course that they posted a picture to their main genspect genspect Twitter page, which was hold on, where is it? And they, again, so really quick, this is where all the controversy has. It totally overshadowed the entire event. Everybody's like, it was such an important event, and it was just so aggravating just to see how much this dust-up has just really eclipsed all the wonderful speakers. And it's like, bro, because nobody cares about your, like, self-important, you know, these like academics. You guys created all this shit, so why are we still listening to any of you people? You're all selling books and like your Substack subscriptions. You all like host each other on your like platforms, and it's always these like boring conversations, and everybody's like a master's of social work or some other related like soft science like bullshit field. So anyway, again, so this is the original post. Spot it. Oh yeah, Karen. Oh, but and again, and I'll say it a million times, and I'll post this link as many times as I need to. Karen Davis is, you know, I don't know if she's the first ever person to bring up criticisms with genspect. I think that that's, you know, there's a lot of other women who are holding the line who have been able to see early on, especially you know, with Stella O'Malley's weird relationship with David Hayton, as opposed to, rather than like kind of allying herself. So again, Stella O'Malley, who's the head of genspect, rather than allying herself with the widow, what is her name? Rachel? I hate calling her the widow, the trans widow of David Hayton. I want her to have her own identity, and I always forget her name. But the trans widow, if anybody says it knows it, put it in the but the trans widow of David Hayton, you know, she did like some interview with them for a documentary. And so Stella and David, Debbie Hayton, and of course, you know, Debbie is this AGP who is a teacher. So he has access to children, and he's supposedly like one of the good trans. He's kind of like the Lois. He's what Lois is to Eva Korolova. You know, David, yeah, Stephanie. Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Ono Joan. So yeah, Stephanie Hayton. So it's like, David, you know, Debbie Hayton is to Stella O'Malley what, you know, Duchess Lois of Alberta is to Eva Korolova, right? And this is when we talk about like the pet troon thing. And it's like, it's just so telling that rather than team up with Stephanie Hayton, who clearly has a lot of insight and a lot to say, she allied herself with the actual autogynephile. And so you know, Karen Davis is somebody who's really, if you really want to get into, and it's extensive, right? She was streaming about this almost daily. And I think it's important to always keep that archive. So if you go to You're Kidding Right, and I'll post the link, You're Kidding Right archive on Odyssey, and there might be one on Rumble. But Karen Davis did such a phenomenal job of documenting all of this stuff. And of course, they were part of a coordinated effort to have her taken out. Because, I mean, when I say Karen Davis was relentless, she was relentless. Like, she was literally like a pit bull who had lockjaw. And it's like they could not shake her off. And it's like they so desperately wanted to keep kind of like high-fiving each other and pretending like they're all doing this great work. And unfortunately, they had fucking Karen Davis who like would not, you know, could not be shaken off. And it was like it made them furious. They went on this huge smear campaign against, you know, Karen, really trying to, you know, paint her as this like unhinged. I mean, Karen Davis is, you know, a New York University educated, you know, musician and educator, and she works with children. And again, I always say that like one of our, you know, for parents, our best ally for safeguarding our children are like good teachers. I mean, there are some teachers out there who like, it's who they are. It's like they love their, you know, students like their own children. And I've had some amazing teachers from my kids throughout my life, and these teachers are like such critical allies I mean, they're raising our children with us, you know. Our kids are spending such a huge portion of their time with their teachers in a lot of ways. You know, so there's teachers who really actually like care about kids and aren't there to groom them and, you know, manipulate them. And you know, Karen Davis is somebody who I think comes from that angle of actually like, you know, caring and seeing about the indoctrination that's going on, and is able to, and one thing about Karen Davis is her ability to recognize, I think, shady characters and call it out early is really phenomenal. And has, I mean, her track record for like recognizing shady people that maybe at first you're like, well, you know, they're not so bad. Yeah, Karen Davis says it's a privilege to help parents raise their children. It's a real joy. It you guys are so critical. Like it makes me want to cry because I'm like thinking of like my son. Oh God, when he was in preschool, he had this, oh my God, this teacher named Chinny Lou. She was this Nigerian woman. Oh, to this, she is like literally an angel on earth. She handmade all these baby dolls. These like really wholesome, sweet, like simple baby dolls for every single child. And to this day, we still have his. And that just the environment that she was a Waldorf teacher. And so we had a little cottage. It was like a little like schoolhouse. And the space that she set up for them to take naps. And she used to bake for them and let them like help decorate and had this big, beautiful backyard. And it's like, there's just some teachers who are just, so, like, so their call. And I don't think she had children. And I almost think that, like, that's how she was able to really pour herself into our kids so much, because I really think she just treated them as like an extension of herself. And so, I say all this to say, Karen, like, if you sometimes you'll hear stuff said about Karen that's like, oh, yeah, Karen's unhinged and she's just like, and it's because she's relentless. And a lot of that comes from, like the smear campaign that was launched against Karen because she was so relentless about going after these people and really dissecting them. And so for people who want a deep dive and really kind of like what was going on below the surface with genspect, Karen Davis's archive of Your Kid and Right on Odyssey is a really critical resource to get up to speed. And I'm so glad that she still has that and immortalized, because like that they'll be able to like erase so much history and they're constantly changing who they are. But it's now that we have that, it's just like concrete archive that shows historically what genspect has really been up to, and I'm just really grateful for that. Stella O'Malley cannot stand Karen Davis or me at this point because she threatened to sue me, whatever. So, so again, and it's like, to me, I think Stella is such a snake and I think she's so dangerous. I think she really is so, so dangerous and people underestimate how dangerous she is. Did we do something to upset the neighbors? The Split by Stella O'Malley. So like real quick, just to get her perspective on it, her like whitewashing of everything. To paraphrase the Irish writer, let's try I really got to get my Irish accent down. I'm good at some accents, but I cannot do an Irish accent to save my life. To paraphrase the Irish writer Benjamin Bahan. See, it always turns into like a UK. The first item on the agenda of any meeting these days is the split. Many people are much more interested in the ins and outs of infighting rather than celebrating the great strides forward that are being made these days. The split has happened and maybe it's the infighting. Well, it's not infighting when you guys were never on our side to begin with. You chose your side. You could have teamed up with Stephanie Hayton. You chose Debbie. That says so much about you, Stella. You're working with these like, pedo apologists and these people and you're saying they're recommending books like from men like Phil Illy. That says a lot about, where your organization. And it makes you insane when there's women who have like, hawk eyes and who are able to recognize you and call you on your shit. And the problem is because there's so many people who just are not that bright and they just kind of like buy into whatever is told to them. And they're like, oh, Stella's wonderful. What do you mean? She's done so much for women and children and so much for safeguarding. And that's what they want you to do. Nothing to see here. She's done great work. Of course, they have to be somewhat useful, right? If she just came out of the gate just as like a total TRA, she wouldn't be able to capture as much of the gender critical movement as she has. No, they have to come off as like useful at first. And, and then there's like, they're able to kind of, again, I see genspect as the life raft of the gender industry because it was so clear that the gender critical movement was actually going to really was making strides to the point where we were really going to take this shit all the way out. But they're not dumb. They're not dumb. If they've been able to capture so much of society at every level of government and society, You really think that they're gonna be like, oh, all right, yeah, you guys got us, you know, we got Riley Gaines and Kelly J. Keene, and yeah, it's like, you know, we got like a local teacher, like a New York University educated teacher, you know, up in you know, like up on the East Coast. We got, you know, Kelly J. Keene, who's a mother of three out in the UK. You know, we got a couple, you know, Amy Souza, who's, you know, an actually good, you know, therapist out in Colorado. It's like, oh, no, okay, you got us. They're not letting a few, you know, smart women come and just destroy everything. You guys really think that they're just going to roll over? No, they're going to evolve and adapt. And they recognize that it was the childhood transition that was really getting everybody upset. They tried to introduce it. And it's funny, it's like they always started off saying, oh, kids don't transition, kids don't transition. But then they they did their best to depict childhood transition as this like sweet, wonderful, you know, like wonderful thing by using the Jazz Jennings as, you know, that was like a litmus test for, okay, we're going to try to now introduce childhood transition as this good and wonderful and helpful thing, and, you know, make it seem this like wholesome and loving and family centered experience. And it like massively backfired. It backfired in the most profound possible way. And then people became like outraged. They're like, oh my God, what is this? This is going on. This is not okay. This isn't what we thought we were supporting. And I think that they realized that it was the childhood transition that people really, really woke up to. Because, you know, I mean, with women's rights, yeah, you know, women are always complaining. You know, who likes a feminist anyway? No one wants to deal with a feminist. Oh, but you're coming after the kids. Well, now that's a problem. Right? So it was like organizations like genspect are like, all right, that's what's getting everybody upset. So, you know, we need to find a way to like deal with that, so that, you know, we can kind of like keep doing what we're doing, but make it look like we're listening and evolving and adapting, so that they don't totally wipe us out. And they're being wildly successful. Let's be real. At this point, the gender critical community is so dominated by this like true trans, like the good trans, the true transsexual. There's some people who truly are trans and they're helpful and all this sort of stuff. And that's really who dominates the gender critical narrative at this point. Again, it's like Buck Angel and Blair White are, and that's who's dominating, you know. And genspect is getting stronger every day, getting, you know, more and more funding, and we need to figure out, you know. And I would love to take Karen. We still got to plan a time to like team up, do a stream, or come up with some kind of project where we can start. Maybe we can come up with like a map. You know, Karen, you know, one thing that I thought would be really cool is maybe we could come up with like sort of like an Alex Aharon like gender map sort of thing, except like map the actual funding for genspect. You know, we should just like create a website where people can submit like information that they have about where funding is coming from, and we can try to create a map about who is in genspect, who's affiliated with genspect, you know, what their associations are, where funding is coming from, something that can't be taken down. You know, we can fundraise and you know, try to keep it up on servers. So if you're interested in doing that, I'd love to do that with you. And, you know, I'd love to do some other like collaboration with you at some point. Because I really do believe that we are at like the early stages of watching the gender industry evolve, and and I think genspect is, you know, a really big contender for becoming the sort of next iteration of the gender industry. And then it's going to kind of create that bipolar system. You know, bipolar systems tend to be successful where you have one of two camps, right? There's a reason that we don't have a three-party system in the US, right? You have a two-party system, and then it forces, you know, each party to kind of compromise enough and consolidate, you know, their base enough, and that, you know, people can be represented for the most part, but then they have to take on, you know, some other issues that maybe they wouldn't have fully, but whatever, right? That tends to be the most successful way to capture as many people and to kind of keep things moving along. And I think that that's what we're seeing happen now. It's going to be genspect and then WPATH. So genspect on the right as being the more conservative, you know, gender critical, pro-trans, you know, trans medicalization, organization, and then WPATH as being the, you know, queer theory, far left, more, you know, laissez-faire version of the gender industry. But yeah, I would love to work on that, and we can, you know, make that as like something where people can submit stuff. And I actually have a lot of experience with building websites, so that's in terms of like the technological side of that, I definitely could, you know, make some of that stuff happen. So, and then we can like archive all of the work that you've already done. And, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the community that we could tap who could go through the work that you've already done, go through a lot of the screenshots and stuff, organize stuff, and kind of create like a visual web that really shows how this has progressed, right? You know, and we can also like keep up with like, you know, who's on their board and who those people are affiliated with. And then also come up with like, you know, just other like just other things where, again, we can show kind of what Stella O'Malley is saying that genspect even is and how that constantly evolves. So yeah. Hey Gabs. And Gabrielle Clark is in the house. And yeah, and as I talked about in my last stream, Gabrielle Clark has a really great organization called Affirming Reality. And I was talking about the family from Montana whose child was stolen by the state. I know that Gabs is, you know, on the front lines with that family, doing a lot of great work for them. I think she actually was the one to break the story to Redux and to the world. So definitely Affirming Reality is another organization that deserves our support. And if you don't already, follow Gabs Clark on Twitter and keep up with what she's doing. So, but yeah, Karen, we should do that. Like, and I'm so, like I said, I'm so down, and I can totally put the website together. So Karen Davis says genspect isn't going to get all that far with the public if they're going with their cabal of frightening creeps. Have you seen these people? You know what? My only thing is, though, we've also seen how far frightening creeps can go. You know, normally I would have been like, yeah, you're totally right. But we've seen how far frightening creeps, unfortunately, does seem to have a market. And it's terrifying. So anyway, all right, so real quick. So, all right, this is from Stella O'Malley, The Split. This was written on November 11th, 2023, day before my sister's birthday. These are the facts. GenSpect hosted a conference in Denver that was successful beyond our wildest dreams. It wasn't an echo chamber. Many people disagreed with one another. However, hundreds of people gathered together to speak about how gender ideology is a damaging belief system that needs to be taken down. It was a very, no, that's not what you guys discussed. You talk about how it needs to evolve for real. Because if it needs to be taken, if you think the gender industry needs to be taken down, you wouldn't be trying to become the next WPATH. Period. You would just say that WPATH needs to be abolished and there doesn't need to be a replacement. Right? We need something like an affirming reality, or like, you know, like a reality based, you know, fully reality based alternative. Period. It was a very mixed, let's see, however, hundreds of people gathered together to speak about how gender ideology is a damaging belief system that needs to be taken down. It was a very mixed crowd of psychologists and lawyers, teachers and doctors and feminists, sports stars, journalists and cultural commentators who all offered presentation on a range of subjects. We had a photographer who was diligently taking photos at the event, and one of the photos taken was of the two attendees, Laura Becker, a detransitioned woman, and Phil Illy, a man in a dress. And again, you know, we've talked, I did this whole stream on Laura Becker, who, I mean, that's a whole case in and of itself. And Stella O'Malley is so irresponsible for constantly platforming Laura Becker, who admits to being addicted to crack and going on these like meth binges. She's not well. She's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. She talks about being an autoandrophile, being addicted to porn and masturbating to the idea of having sex with twinks, with like gay men, essentially. She's not well, And, you know, part of the issue was Phil Illy, of course, latched onto Laura Becker because that's his like favorite target. Okay. He really likes these like mentally ill, low self-esteem women. And he likes the women who are gender confused because he gets off on being pegged. He gets off on like sex reversal. So that's another reason with the issue, right? And it's again, it's like Laura Becker who can't actually see when someone is dangerous. She doesn't have a good radar for dangerous people. And they like talked for hours apparently, and it's scary because I've heard a lot of scary things. Again, you know, Phil Illy, who allegedly, you know, has a methamphetamine addiction and has done this with other women in the past. And he apparently reaches out to a lot of women who are detransitioners and tries to talk to them about autoandrophilia. I've heard from other detransitioners saying that like Phil kept trying to reach out to them and, you know, kind of like convince them that they're autoandrophiles, which would be the like female to male version of an autogynephile, which like I do think that there's some basis for a type of autoandrophilia, but I do not believe whatsoever that the etiology is the same at all. So anyway, Phil is unusual. He is a self-confessed autogynephile who has written a book that puts forward his conceptualization of autogynephilia, a paraphilia that refers to a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female, and redefines it as autoheterosexuality. Phil did not speak at the conference, nor did he sell his book there. He didn't sell his book there. No. He was giving away free copies. This was a book tour, Stella. This was a book tour for this man. He was giving away free copies. At genspect, however, we are always open to anyone who offers interesting ideas about gender. Nothing of what he says is interesting. Again, it's like just the uncritical approach, because if there was a Nazi who showed up, would you like this whole idea that, oh, we're a marketplace of ideas? You know that that's not true, Stella. You know that that's not true. Okay. What if there was somebody who, what if there was like a hardcore, you know, misandrist, radical feminist separatist who was basically giving out ideas that, you know, we should use sex selective abortions against males, and whatever else the case may be, that, you know, men or even, you know, Karen Davis's ideas about vice laws, right? I can guarantee you Stella wouldn't sit there and platform, you know, Karen Davis talking about, you know, implementing vice laws to criminalize and punish men who cross-dress. But I thought we were a marketplace of ideas. No. That's the thing. You're still cherry picking. It's still ideas that you know, are palatable, that you will allow. Because again, Phil Illy, men who do this sort of stuff know where they can get away with it. And they know that they can get away with it with genspect. Because for whatever reason, Stella O'Malley seems to have this like wild fascination with male paraphilia. She really does. She seems to be so fascinated. And I think Stella, used to have like gender, like claims that she had like gender dysphoria herself. Maybe she has like, you know, autoandrophilia or whatever it is. But she seems to have her own kind of, whether it's sexual, like deep down, or some preoccupation or interest in like male sexology and, you know, understanding like male sex drive. And it seems to excite her. And I really feel like underneath it all, that's really where her interest lies. But she had to come up with a way to explore it that was going to kind of give off this like pseudo legitimate, pseudo professional thing. Also, like what I think is really telling is how much Stella O'Malley, you know, etc., take this guy at his word. I just did a breakdown yesterday where I basically talked about the fact that I do not think that this guy is I don't think he's an autogynephile. I think he's a transvestic fetishist, and I think that there are important distinctions between the two. He doesn't try to change his voice. He really doesn't try to do anything. He has like a very male physique that he works out and shows off. He likes being in a male body wearing female clothing. That's the fetish. I'm not saying that he's not a fetishist, and I'm not saying that he's not, you know, totally paraphilic. But I don't think that he's an autogynephile. I think the only reason that he claims to be an autogynephile is because of the shock factor. I think he gets off on the idea of going into these spaces, these gender critical spaces, dressed like this, telling everyone that he's an autogynephile, passing out free, you know, copies of his book that is the most unscientific thing ever, and basically like being like, what's the matter? Why are you so upset? Calm down. It's crazy. Just, I mean, I guess these feminists, these women who are very traumatized. I get that they're traumatized. But, unfortunately, I'm not the one who caused them trauma, and I don't believe it's my responsibility to, I'm just wearing a dress. I am sorry if that's offensive to you, but what would you like me to do? Should I go hide? I mean, I don't think anything I did was inappropriate. You know what you're doing. Yeah, the arm guards are so cringe. Oh, I would love to see a Karen Davis and Stella debate. Would be amazing. So I really believe that he's a transvestic fetishist where he gets off on wearing women's clothes. I don't think he's an autogynephile. I only think he's a claims autogynephilia just to get everybody riled up. This was exactly what he wanted. And Stella and the gang fed right into it. And, let's see. Phil is unusual. He is a self-confessed autogynephile who has written a book that puts forward his conceptualization of autogynephilia, paraphilia that refers to a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female, and redefines it as autoheterosexuality. Again, he's trying to normalize it. Phil did not speak at the conference, nor did he sell his book there. No, but he passed out tons of free copies, and you guys platformed him and promoted his book. At GenSpect, however, we are always open to anyone who offers interesting ideas about gender. Again, would you be open to hearing about Karen Davis's ideas about vice laws against men like this? I doubt that would be the case, but let me know. And you weren't open to my ideas about, the whole true trans infiltration because you threatened to sue me and threatened that it was somehow slander to point out the fact that you guys take a very true trans approach, which is accurate. But yeah, how's the lawsuit going, Stella? At GenSpect, however, we are always open to anyone who offers interesting ideas about gender, not because we agree with these ideas. So then what's the point? But because we are intensely aware of the lack of knowledge in this field. And so we approach this issue with recognition that we don't know what we don't know. So we're just letting anyone talk. We're letting anybody, and here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. This whole marketplace of ideas is only legitimate if people are allowed to push back. Right? You have Helen Pluckrose who talks about how, her, true classical liberalism and true liberalism is all about allowing everybody a chance to speak. And that's the beauty of it, as long as they're not harming anybody. But then it's like, but then you guys oppose people. But that only, and that the good ideas will rise to the top and the bad ideas will get pushed out. But that's the thing. That's the thing. You guys get upset when people try to push the bad ideas out after they've already been brought up. Women aren't actually censoring these men. We're not having them deplatformed. There's no laws. They're not getting fined or questioned by the police. No, that's happening to women. That's not happening to them. That's happening to us. You understand, right? So it's like they're like, oh, these women are mobbing us and these women are, crazy and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, no. The whole marketplace of ideas only works when there's allowed to be like a response, a counter. If it's everybody's allowed to say their piece and everybody has to just kind of like, oh, okay, wonderful. And no one's allowed to say anything about it or push back. That's not actually a marketplace of ideas, right? You're just, that's not actually like a system that like self-regulates. The marketplace theory has to come again. It's about the people you should have to have the right to uplift the good ideas and then kind of condemn and put down the bad ideas. We're not making it illegal for these men to speak. We're just pointing out like where it's so flawed, right? And we're also, the real issue is you guys platforming this guy. A member of our team posted the photo of Laura and Phil on our X, formerly Twitter account, along with the mention of his book. It's probably you still. Our tweet said, spotted, autogynephilic and funk god artist. Check out autogynephilic's book, Autoheterosexual, Attraction to Being the Other Sex, hashtag GenSpect Denver. Okay, although we don't pretend to have a full knowledge of gender, neither do we wish to be perceived to be recommending Phil's book or his views, and so we have removed the tweet. But what do you mean wish to be perceived? But that's what you did. You did recommend the book. We don't accept that genspect is responsible if people are triggered by a photo of two people at a conference, and we believe this type of thinking is regressive and unhealthy. No, 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 no. No, it's not regressive to point out that a man parading about his fetish is gross. And especially when you're giving that man access to like his target, right? It's so frustrating. Nor do we believe that genspect should have removed Phil from the conference. He was behaving respectfully at all times. Some people take issues with it. It's not, I don't think that they had a responsibility to remove this guy, right? The issue is, why do guys like this think that feel comfortable like they're going to find community and acceptance at a conference like that? He's not showing up to a Let Women Speak event with Kelly J. Keene. He's not showing up to a free speech for women event with like me or, you know, Rev Fem Jennifer Thomas or Connie Hahn or, you know, Joy or Yolanda or, you know, Christina, right? He wouldn't show up to one of those. No, he's showing up to where he knows he's going to be accepted and coddled and protected, right? That's the part. It's what is it about you, genspect, that attracts these sort of guys? And also, and then to turn around and platform it, you know, above everything else and whatever. And then also, and then to get mad when women are stigmatizing and shaming this guy, as they should. So you're not open to all ideas, because you all got upset when women had the response that they should have if they have like a working brain and a working, you know, sense of internal alarm. And of course, all those women ended up being right, because it turns out he's some like meth addicted, you know, creep. And that all of this stuff is only the tip of the iceberg. And they're saying they're just like, again, it's like there needs to be some critical filter for this stuff. It's not just like, let's put out every idea and equally platform them so that it's up to the public to figure out what's legit and what's not. No. That's not how that's really not how that should work. And the fact that you're like here, I want to also like, here's another example of dangerous people that they're putting up. So, damn, I wish I had more time. Laura Becker, Funk God, Stella. Oh man, I'm just gonna leave this up just so that we can hopefully get to it. Mr. Menno. Let's see, Laura Becker, and then genspect. They keep platforming this woman who also there should be a filter for her, because it's not, again, because a lot of the casual viewer doesn't know what they don't know, and it's like, it should be up to us to help filter through, like, no, this person is not really somebody that you should be taking, you know, information from. They're not well, you know, it's not just like, oh, all ideas are equal. No, they're not all equal. Karen Davis says, Illy is Michael Bailey's protege. Illy was included in an online symposium in August 2023, at which Bailey was featured. I'm almost sure that O'Malley takes her orders from Bailey, the PETA supporter. Yeah, so, and I did a video on Bailey, and again, this is a guy who is about destigmatization of pedophilia, and, you know, has a lot of sympathy for pedophilia. So this is the sort of in crowd that genspect is becoming. So really quick. So this is like some of the responses from people about this genspect thing. So let's just take a listen.
Today I am very pleased to be joined by Phil Illy and Shannon Trace. I met both of you last weekend in Denver at the genspect conference, which was really nice. I didn't have a chance to talk with either of you for very long, but I talked with both of you while we were there. And Shannon, I have a copy of your book here. 18 months, you said you're doing a cover redesign, but this is the book. And you are a trans widow. Yes. And I really enjoyed your speech at the conference and look forward to reading this and talking with you more. We had already talked about doing that. And Phil, you have a book as well. I haven't read it. I don't have a copy of it. Do you have a copy you can hold up?
This is Bad Boy. Yeah.
Nice. And you and I spoke, I think it was just maybe really kind of once for about a little while, maybe 15 minutes or so. And I really enjoyed talking with you, but we didn't get into the topic at hand very much. We just
So this woman, Leslie, is like a super TRA. She's a TRA who, you know, frames herself as being like a moderate gender critical or something like that. But she's an absolute TRA. Like, we can't just say like, oh, someone calls themselves gender critical, it must be legit.
Kind of had a nice chat about hi and hello and
Yeah.
getting acquainted. And since the conference, there's been this fervor that's erupted around a picture of you at the conference. And it's
Mhm.
really, it's interesting. I was just saying to y'all before we hit record, I haven't been in social media circles very long. And so this kind of mobbing behavior, I had always kind of just associated with this.
Mobbing behavior, right? Just because a lot of people are having a similar strong reaction and they're all taking their rightful opportunity to express that reaction, and it happens to be a lot of people who happen to be having the same reaction, is not mobbing. Okay, you have the right, just as anyone else, to put your account on private. You have the right, just as anyone else, to block. It's not mobbing. No one's deplatforming you. No one's showing up your house with pitchforks. I hate all the hyperbole. Like, will you stop it?
Woke cancel culture. But seeing it crop up over a topic that I'm more closely involved with has been really interesting to watch it manifest. And I had a conversation with Pamela Garfield Yeager, who was also at the conference, and we did a recording about this
I know, radical center does make no sense. And she's not centrist. Nobody who co-signs literally any of this stuff is a centrist. Period. You know what I mean? It's nobody who's using like wrong sex pronouns is a centrist. That's all radical. It's radical to call a man she, her. It's radical to allow a man in a woman's bathroom, okay? It's radical to be like, "Oh yeah, cross-dressing is totally normal and, legit, whatever." Those are radical positions, okay? So, again, it would be like the more like, like the two sides would be of like a normal side would like the middle, the really like the centrist position is saying that no, there are no men, no men are women. We use reality for everything. And but I don't necessarily think that men should be thrown in jail, right, for cross-dressing. They should just be shunned. Those are the two sides. It's whether or not men should be like criminalized and we should bring back vice laws, and these other ideas, or whether or not we should be using just like social stigmatization and shame, right? Those are like the two sides, and then somewhere in the middle, that's the center. Or anything else beyond total reality, but we shouldn't necessarily like criminalize, is a radical far out to the left. Okay, you're not the center. That is nowhere near the center.
a couple of days ago, and I watched as my channel blew up with negative comments, even from people who've been long time.
Karen Davis says Shannon Thrace believes that we need to understand AGPs like Illy. Despite the abuse she suffered, she doesn't see AGPs as inherently dangerous, and that's a problem. Unfortunately, it's like Stockholm syndrome, and unfortunately, behind every AGP is some sort of enabler. We don't know the extent to which she like enabled her husband, and we just don't know, or we don't know like how much the abuse had an impact on her, or even this idea of like toxic. I remember, so one of the things that piqued me was I had joined a domestic violence group. So after I had I like a year or two after my ex-husband spent time in jail for assaulting me. For everybody who's like, "Oh, you're a baby mama, you're a single mom. How's it like being a single mom?" Again, I was married for upwards of, almost 10 years. I was married for 9 years. Okay. Like, I left my husband, who I married. I had a ring. We bought a house together. I had children with him. I left my husband because I had a responsibility to leave my husband because he assaulted me, right? I would be negligent to keep my children in a situation like that. And I would actually, I would, deserve to have my children removed from me if I were to keep my children in a situation like that. Okay, it's not like I was just out fucking and just got, knocked up or whatever the case may be that like people try to like paint me as. And I say all this so I, like a year or two after whatever that he had, he spent a year in jail too, right? And they were gonna give him more time, but I stupidly was like, let's just drop it. I like asked them to like drop the case after, so he was released after a year, and it was just because I was like, let him get back to work because he used to work on Wall Street and I was really financially dependent and stuff like that, and I had young children. And I was like, You know, I was like, I'd rather just go the civil route and get restraining orders and let him work and make him pay me child support and alimony and whatever else, right? Like that's how I can get the retribution that I need, is keep him away from me, make him work, and make him, like, you know, pay his part. Otherwise, we're just being punished twice. Which was a stupid decision because he fucking went and terrorized me for a while after that. But I joined a domestic abuse survivor group, and there was a woman who I was kind of following her story, and she was talking about being abused by her, you know, child's father, and she had a 3-year-old, and, you know, her 3-year-old son, and she was being abused and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden I heard her talking. She's like, yeah, you know, my ex-girlfriend, something, you know, when she had abused me, and was talking about it and was saying, you know, the child we share together. I was like, oh, I was like, is this a separate partner? Because I remember you had been talking about your child's father as being an abuser. Do you have like 2 different abusers? She goes, oh, well, actually, no. She recently came out as trans. And so, you know, even though I hate what she did to us and I think it's horrible, you know, I'm not transphobic. And so I am going to honor her gender identity. And I was like, are you kidding me? I just remember, I was like, bro, what? I was like, honey, with all due, I was like, sweetheart, listen to me. Do you not recognize like that this is like a Stockholm syndrome situation? I was like, no, that's, you got to understand, he's still trying to control you through that. Now you've got to sit there and honor his identity, and he still has you in like a chokehold of, you know, now you got to tiptoe around his like wants and needs and cater to him. I said, do not acquiesce to that at all. When I tell you the dog pile that happened, I mean, the entire group, like, it was like, she like got all so offended and was like, you know, I just because like she was all like, you know, horrible to me, and just because she like did these bad things doesn't mean that I, you know, I'm gonna, you know, be transphobic and disrespect her as a human being, as a human, you know, her humanity. And I was like, this dude abused your 3-year-old child. And you still are like advocating for his, you know, like gender identity, and for us, everyone, to be compassionate and thoughtful of his pronouns. He terrorized you and your baby. He left you critically vulnerable. I was like, my love, please listen to what you're saying. And then she like tagged in the like moderators of the group, and they're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. They're like, we do not at all accept this. I ended up getting thrown out of the group, and it was this like huge thing. And like, thank God there was one other woman in there who was like, had my back. She's like, yeah, what the fuck are we even talking about? And like, it was like me and her like battling everybody else. And everybody's like, well, I'm so sorry, we do not tolerate this. And I was like, her and I both got kicked out together, and we're like, yo, fuck this. And we like stayed like Facebook friends. And then I started to get more into like the gender critical stuff. But it's amazing how much these women will still cape for their abusers, right? And it's just another layer of coercive control, trying to force you to acquiesce to their like gender identity and all this sort of stuff. So again, so I think that can be what's happening with like this trans widow, for example, who does totally cape for these men. You know, totally capes for these men for whatever reason, does not seem to be fully out of the sort of like psychological coercive control that you know, she had experienced.
Supportive commenters. So it's a really interesting thing to find yourself in the middle of. And I feel like there's got to be.
Karen Davis says, when I was counseling battered women, I heard this all the time. There was a lot of, he won't do it again, especially from women who had been hospitalized due to abuse. And as someone who went through it, I can tell you, a lot of people get so frustrated with like victims of domestic violence and you know, their like reluctance to leave and their propensity to like stay with abusers. And it's like, it is so hard to explain. Men don't come out of the gate swinging. They don't, you know, show up to the first date and then like, you know, jaw you real quick, you know, or start like putting you down, right? They wait until you're well established and well hooked in and locked in, and they've love bombed you. And again, that's why they usually wait till either you're pregnant or you have babies by them or you're married or you become financially intertwined and you're in some way dependent on them. That's when they start to let that stuff out. And it's like this cognitive dissonance where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And you literally lay there and you're like, I just wish this didn't happen, because it's like you still love them. You know, it's so hard to reconcile what happened with the reality of what's happening, with this fantasy of you know, what you want your life to be. And you're like, you just want so badly for them to be sorry. You want so badly for them to, like, you know, grovel at your feet and say I'm sorry, and so that you can just like move forward, because it's scary to go out to, like, you have to uproot everything. It's like, you didn't ask for this. You had sat there and you built this whole life. You became dependent, vulnerable, and all of a sudden, it's like it all gets ripped out from under you, and you're supposed to just drop everything and be ready to go. And it's also dangerous to drop everything and be ready to go, because that's the most dangerous time, is when you try to leave. So it's like, you're just like, I just want to believe that he made this horrible mistake and he lost control and he would never do that. And it's so hard when you finally have to, like, confront the fact, like, no, this is who he is. And one thing that women, survivors or women experiencing domestic violence must understand: male patterns of violence against their domestic partner are chronic and increasing. It's very different from women. But male patterns of violence, they don't get better, it gets worse. It gets worse, it increases in frequency, and it increases in intensity. So please understand, it will not get better. It will only get worse. And the longer you wait, the more harrowing it can be. And it's such a hard thing to wrap your head around, this person that you love, that you had built this idea, this fantasy, and you have to, like, again, do you know how hard that was for me? Do you know how hard it was for me we had a beautiful home. I had a husband who had worked on Wall Street. We were like college sweethearts. You know, we had this big, beautiful baby shower with all of our friends and family. You know how hard it is to come and, like, tell your family, like, he's abusing me? After, you know, I'd posted all these photos on Facebook of, look at my beautiful family, I'm so proud and excited, and you know, and you want to believe so bad that he's, like, you know, the one person in the world that will protect you and that will die behind you and will do anything to, you know, provide for you. And to really have to sit and realize that the reality is that this person is dangerous for you, doesn't love you, and your whole world, it is no longer, you can no longer pursue this dream this is supposed to be my forever life. I didn't get married to get divorced, right? I didn't get, like, have children, you know, so just so that I could go and, you know, I start over later, whatever. You know, I wanted to build this, like, beautiful legacy, and I had a small business, and I was flourishing as a doula. Me leaving him also meant that I had to leave my life as a midwife. I could only be a midwife because I was on call 24 hours a day. He was, you know, a big part of my ability to do the work that I was doing. And I hate the question of, oh, why don't you do midwifery anymore? It's because my husband started abusing me, and I had to leave my life. And it was so difficult for me to get to the place in the beginning where I could even be on call like that. And it's not something that I can just easily recreate. You think I miss it every day of my life? So I say all that to say, it's like, so this woman who is a trans widow, you know, we have to understand, again, these women who have been, like, deeply, you know, under coercive control and abused are not fully deprogrammed, you know, all the time, right? And she clearly doesn't seem like she
Be a way to
is.
have more civil discussions than that.
Yeah, I think it's a natural outgrowth of just what social media does. It lets everyone.
Yeah, Susie Glucksman says, if you don't leave an abusive relationship and you have kids, you do far more damage to them by saying, I could lose my children. And I tell other women who are in abusive situations like this all the time. I said, I understand that that you don't want to leave and that's scary and all this sort of stuff. I said, if you know that he's abusive and you choose to stay, you can lose your children. They will deem you as unfit, right? They will deem you as you are not able to set that boundary down. And you don't have to threaten me. You know, like, more. Once I found that out, I was like, I gotta go, right? And it was like, thank God, but he never ever did anything to me in front of the kids until like one time. It was like always when the kids weren't at the house, and then there was one day where he literally threw me into my bedside table really badly, and my kids were in the other room. They heard it, and my son came in and was like, what's going on? And I was like, I got to start planning my exit strategy. And it was really hard and really scary. I was like, how am I going to take care of 4 young babies? Where do I begin? I was like, I don't, my source of income requires him, because doing birth work requires that I have somebody who's literally around, who can at, 24 hours a day take care of my kids, go pick them up from school and then be with them through the night. And I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. Everything that I'd built for myself was interdependent on this life that I had created. You know how terrifying that was? But no, Susie, you're absolutely right. I had a responsibility to leave at that point. So I get so mad when people call me like a baby mama or like a single mom and all this sort of shit. No, I fucking did everything in like the right order and all that sort of stuff. My parents are still married. My sister is married to her husband, who she had children with. My brother's married to his wife, who he had children with. I come from a culture, a community that is predominantly married, intact families. I'm one of like the few single moms. That's not what I like envisioned for myself. This is somebody I met in college who was very high performing. And it's like, you think that this is what I wanted? It wasn't like I left him because I was like, oh, I'm not attracted to you anymore and I want to go fuck other dudes who, I want to go have some more exciting life. I know women who have like had affairs on their husbands because they're like, it's getting boring. I would never. I can work through any of that sort of stuff. I would never take my family apart over something trivial. I had no choice. I had a responsibility to my children to leave. And the more that I learned about domestic violence, the more I realized it will not get better.
Everyone talk to each other and interact with everyone, which is not evolutionarily or historically ever been possible before. And it appears that once everyone can talk to everyone, it leads to a lot of conflict.
Yeah, it does seem like it's a unique phenomenon. There's a few things that the feminists have been saying that are...
Well, guys, I know, and I hear you, and I don't let stuff get to me. Like, I feel like it's why I'm able to do what I do, because it's like, I know who I am, and thank God. I don't think maybe like 10 years ago I would have had the self-esteem or the self-confidence to do this and handle the criticism. But it's like, I've survived enough in my life. It's like my ex-husband couldn't kill me. Cancer couldn't kill me. There were so many things that couldn't take me out. And it's like, and I know where I came from and I know who I am. You know what I mean? And it's like, people aren't going to tell me about me, and I know that I don't have to prove myself to anybody. But it's like, sometimes it's like, it is hurtful because it's like, you think that you think that like I wanted to raise my children separate from their father. You think that like, my parents have been married for almost like 40 years or something. And all of my friends are married to their husbands that they have children with, and it's like, it's like sad sometimes. And it's like, I don't regret leaving, but it's like, this is not what I envisioned on the day that I got engaged. This wasn't like, the day I found out I was pregnant or tried for my second baby, or, we lived in the Philippines together. He went and supported me in the Philippines when I was doing my, we did a lot of like mutual support and stuff like that. Again, he's like a really, intelligent, high functioning person. He worked on Wall Street. That's why we used to live in Jersey City. And it's like, it's complicated, and it sucked. And it's not because I was just like sexually reckless and just out there like, just getting knocked up. It's like, I didn't want this.
I guess maybe I shouldn't say the feminists. That's what this group of people has been called by people who are lashing back. So there's this lash and this backlash. So there's been a few complaints that are in these that are in the comments quite a bit about your presence at the conference. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're missing part of the picture when they're doing this. They're kind of using you as a representative for a lot of frustration. And that maybe if we could have a nuanced conversation that we could maybe take some of the fervor out of it, but I don't know if that's possible. Maybe it just has to burn itself out. But I'm just delighted that the two of you are willing to have a chat today. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Shannon, do you want to give a little bit of your thoughts and what's been your impression of the conference and what's been happening since?
Yeah, so I thought the conference was really, really great. I mean, there were so many inspiring speakers, and there were so many really, really insightful and interesting things said, and statistics, and just facts, and just it was just a great, great conference. And so I was a little frustrated to see that this tweet had kind of taken off in a way that was overshadowing the other great things that happened at the conference.
Here's the thing, and it's overshadowing all the other great things. Yeah, you know what? One small thing, can overshadow everything. That's like saying, he just, raped one child. Don't let it overshadow his lifetime of good work. Unfortunately, killing one person, that one time you kind of freaked out and murdered your girlfriend. Yeah, it'll overshadow everything. Yeah, that's how that works. That's how that happens. When you are an organization that claims to be committed to the safeguarding of children, and you're inviting and platforming and kind of bringing into the fold these admitted sexual predators and perverts, kind of overshadows everything else. Kind of, nullifies every other thing that's supposedly so good and great. That's how that works, ladies.
And yeah, I guess one of the things I was really frustrated by was that I saw another.
Oh my God, Susie, I want to fucking tattoo this on my face. Susie Glucksman always has such good comments. Susie Glucksman says, these women act like what Phil is doing is so avant-garde and we're just not smart enough to get it like them. 1,000%. That's what's so aggravating between Phil and Benjamin Boyce, and there was these feminists. They just there's such a knee-jerk reaction, as if we're just we live in such a lower level vibration where it's we just react with emotion, and we're just illogical, and we're just kind of mob behavior, and it's no, stop it. And it's also how limited is your critical thinking skills that you guys are taking him at his word about everything. Again, I was already able to immediately identify that he's really not what he claims that he is. And it's it's really concerning about your guys' level of critical thinking and discernment if you're just taking these men at their word. Yeah, oh, okay, oh, that's how it works. Oh boy, okay, well, great. Thanks for letting us know. It's do you not understand that men like this have a self motivation, a self-possessed motivation to want to lead you into a certain direction of thinking? They have their own ulterior motives and things like that. And also the fact that he's just making a lot of stuff up as he goes along. He's read a bunch of PubMed, so he's able to quote some things from PubMed. Again, even these PubMed theories, these aren't necessarily set in stone. Ray Blanchard, I think his general ideas of autogynephilia are correct. Doesn't mean he's fully correct on everything. For example, I think that a lot of the men who claim to be homosexual, transsexuals are actually autogynephilic, and there's a lot of other things. You know what I mean? So it's not this stuff is all objective truths. Yeah, we're not smart enough to understand, the kind of they're such evolved, intelligent beings. This is why I can't stand academics.
From people who were saying, Phil shouldn't have been present or shouldn't have been dressed this way because think of the trans widows. Has genspect even spoken to any trans widows? The poor trans widows. And so I kind of had to step up and go, hey, I am a trans widow. I was spoken to by genspect. I was platformed. I was given a chance to talk, and I did not feel victimized by Phil's presence. And I don't like that characterization. And I don't want to support that. So that's where I kind of jumped in and got involved a little bit.
Yeah. That is one of the main points that's been made, is that this was a place where there were vulnerable people and that it was inappropriate, or that yeah, so that's a really good point to address.
It is inappropriate. It's totally inappropriate. It's totally gross. And there were plenty of detransitioners who expressed why I'm sorry if you guys are so interested in having the whole marketplace of ideas and let everyone speak. Then why are none of you guys platforming the detransitioners who were at the event who said that they thought it was totally inappropriate? What, like Prisha, for example, who felt totally uncomfortable.
And Phil, what about you? What's your impression? What was your impression of the conference, and what are your thoughts about what's going on now? And are you wearing the infamous dress right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually that outfit that people were mad about is like currently one of the ones that's in my like. I just rotate through a few outfits just out of laziness. With like, I don't like to use decision making energy on what am I going to wear today. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna wear this color today, and then yeah.
Well, you did say you love blue.
Yeah, no, most days I wear blue. And yeah, except on laundry day when I'm cleaning the blues I like, and then wear other things. But yeah, the conference was really fun. It was like, it felt like the first chance for a lot of people that have been following the gender discourse and transgender discourse for years to actually get to meet in real life. And there was like this energetic energy. There was a feeling of like possibility of what the people working together could accomplish. It was overall very positive, and the social vibes there were very chill. It's like not at all what the sort of weird thing is happening on Twitter right now. The conference was not at all anything like that. And so yeah, I understand if the genspect organizers are upset by that after putting in all that hard work and running a pretty good conference, that there's this stupid argument taking up all the oxygen in the discussion. And I think I want to mention that, like, why I think like we could even get to this place and of this Twitter mobbing over like there being a literal autogynephile wearing a dress in public, is basically like the trans movement does not want to talk about autogynephilia, right? And so they basically abstain from discourse around it, except to say that it's not real, it's fake, it's transphobic, yada yada. And on the other hand, the gender criticals and the rad femmes, like that sort of like general milieu, they they don't like the impacts that orientation is having in terms of like how it is behind the gender ideology that they critique. And they reasonably fear that it's like females like fighting for their like own sex, and having this ideology rise up that then prioritizes gender over sex is kind of a threat to their concerns. But the feminists also a lot of times they really demonize it and mischaracterize the orientation, like what it is, how it feels. It's basically the stuff they've been saying about me hasn't really been bothering me because they're so off base with like their understanding of the orientation and also how it feels firsthand, that they're basically describing something that is not real, and so it like doesn't bug me. And yeah, you basically have these two sides that have like created their own ideas about what autogynephilia is and completely siloed off from each other and created both two really extreme ways of portraying it that are completely incompatible. And like neither of them like someone like me that's just trying to be like, hey, here's what it actually is. I read a lot of the science, and like here's my best attempt at
I read a lot of the science. You read a lot of like PubMed. I don't have that long to do a full. Oh, real quick. Here's like the TTX Lanzik thing where she just tries to like jump in with him. Again, she had posted her own picture with him. I'll read it real quick. My thoughts on AGP Gate. The bigger red flags and man in a dress for me were style of dress and the fit. Here, I'll just show you the picture and I'll just read what she said. Again, because it's like all these people who are, trying to like justify this guy. Hold on. Oh, damn it. Okay, let's see. Hold on. Here, real quick, while I'm looking for it, I'll just keep playing it.
Describing it. Like they don't like that.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I agree that it is misunderstood, and As a person who is married to someone who very much fit that description of an autogynephile, it's a medical disorder. It's a complex issue. It's not simple fetishism or something like that. And I think my frustration is, if you're going to use the word, like, why are you a person who thinks it doesn't exist or that it's something completely different from what it is? Like, maybe you shouldn't use the word if you don't agree with the definition of the word. And so,
What is she talking about?
yeah, it's just kind of frustrating for me as well, because when I was married to my ex-husband Jamie, I couldn't figure out why cross-dressing should impact his life to the degree that it did, and why it should interfere with our relationship and interfere with our intimacy and really change his personality. Like, to me, whether somebody wants to express themselves through clothing, that shouldn't have done that, or even whether someone had a kink.
There you go. Right there is an important thing that she just said. She goes, I didn't understand why it interfered with our lives the way that it did. You know, why, if it couldn't just be somebody who just wanted to express themselves through clothing. That's the difference between simply somebody who's trying to be like gender non-conforming or experiment or gender bending or whatever, and stuff with these men. Like, anybody who hasn't listened to yesterday's live stream, we talked about these like cases of these like, you know, minor boys who, or they're like teenagers who present with like features of transvestic fetishism. And the issue is that there's an obsessive compulsion with it. It's this like all encompassing like drive. It's this like obsessive desire. That's the difference, right? And then again, that there's a lot of comorbidities with the other paraphilias, and it can branch out into other things. It's not just going to stay contained. Because that sort of stuff, it's going to drive people, you know, to seek out more pornography, and it's going to create this feedback loop, and they're going to discover again, because you're already starting to explore these kind of like deviancies through pornography or whatever other sources, and it's going to lead you to find new things, new ways to allow your paraphilia to grow and to expand. And these kids are starting off at like 17, 18, and they're starting to get into this like kink and fetishism. There is no reason to think that it won't grow out into other you know, fetishes and stuff, and it can get spiral into something that's even more and more, you know, perverse and antisocial. It's not just simply wanting to, you know, gender bend, and because it's his need to do it inappropriately too. It's like there's a time and a place to do that sort of stuff, that you have to do it at a gender conference. And again, and I'll say this to the women who don't seem to get it. One of the main reasons why it is so antisocial for these men to insist on wearing these clothes out in public is because, again, women and children are uniquely vulnerable in society. We need to be able to quickly visually identify who's a threat. And as a man, you're a real piece of shit if you insist on like making that confusing and difficult for us. And even women who sit there and support that, you guys are real pieces of shit if you absolutely insist on sort of removing the sort of like social contract that you know, where men wear, you know, kind of what's appropriate for men, and women wear what's appropriate for women, and men have certain boundaries with their clothing, because it's about respect for women, so that anybody who deviates from that, like a normal good man, will you know, dress in a way that it is not upsetting and confusing to women and children, so that when we see that men do dress like that, we have an immediate visual indicator that this man, there's something sexually wrong with this man. He's sexually deviant, perverse, antisocial, and I don't need to know a single other thing about him to know that I need to get away from him and get my children the hell away from him. So men who insist on like, you know, just like playing in everyone's faces, and these women who insist on like forcing women to sit there and override their internal sense of alarm, that is such a safeguarding failure. Insisting that women try to, you know, tell themselves that this is normal and acceptable, and teach their children that that's normal and acceptable, so that you're removing yet another tool that we have, a visual tool that we have to identify threats in society. How dare, oh, and I'm sorry, but I am not as interested in upholding a man's right to sit there and dress up in women's clothes than I am protecting women and children's ability to safeguard and protect themselves and to honor their internal alarm, to honor their instincts. And you're sitting there and you're trying to train them out of those instincts and gaslight us and be like, well, I don't get it. What's the problem? It's not a big deal. It's just address. You know what the problem is. You know, and if you really don't get it, then that means you're so far off out into the reeds. You've spiraled so far into these academic circles where you over intellectualize this stuff with these other pseudo intellectuals that you're no longer connected with your own reality, your own evolutionarily honed sense of what is safe and what is not. But you're not going to gaslight us into training ourselves out of that. We have every right. I'm not going to sit there and tell my kids, oh no, some men like to wear all kinds of things. Some men like to wear, baby diapers and suck on a pacifier, and wear big fake, prosthetic breasts under their clothing. And that's okay. That's just expression. With the Kayla Malou guy, or it's like a, let's see, Kayla, the guy who was wearing the big prosthetic breasts, and he was a teacher at school, and the school defended it and was like, well, it's his right, it's his gender identity or whatever, and he takes them off. Ew. No, every child in there should have been like, whoa, and have a right to be like, whoa, get out of here. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Kayla, what is it? What was that guy's last name? Fake breast teacher. Yeah, here we go. This weirdo, and Canada defended it. The teachers, whatever, said that there was nothing wrong here, that this is normal behavior. So let me ask you guys, where's the line, right? Let me add the radical center lady, whatever your name is. So is this normal? Should we be telling children that, oh no, that's okay, sweetheart? Oh, Lemieux, thank you. That's okay, sweetheart. No, he's just expressing himself. He's creative. That's what these men want you to say. And you guys are just sitting there and you guys are the message delivery service for these dudes who want to just sit there and have everyone take their boundaries down. He's saying that he's being allowed to teach students. It's so insane and disgusting. So would it be ridiculous for women to point that out? What's wrong? It's just his, expression. He's artistic. He's avant-garde. Exactly. It's no, it's literally as simple as he's just a fucking creep. And I'm sorry, but this is why academia has always been so douchey to me, because it's just it's overprivileged men who are given all this access and money and privilege and the right to sit there and legitimize stuff that they're sexually interested in. It's as simple and basic as this animalistic drive to have sex and to get around women's boundaries. And they sit there and they kind of are able to spin it as this oh no, it's this we're very evolved and intellectual and, a sexologist and stuff. And it's just stop it. Stop it. So really quick, I want to get into some of, I can't find it anymore. So I think maybe he blocked me. And so he's obviously knows that I've been talking about him. And originally he had some Substacks that talk about him wanting to get pegged by women. And that's what he's into. And again, there's these stories apparently from, women who have been involved with him, talking about him, talking about him, pegging, wanting to peg him, and him women into be thinking that they're an autoandrophile. Oh, come on. The stream is paused. Max, hold on. Let me see if is the audio paused or just the, Maxie, you gotta sit down, honey. You're gonna have to go out there if you keep, I know, honey. pegging, like wanting to peg. No, damn it. Oh, here I go. To be like thinking that they're an auto. Okay, so here, hold on. Maxie, I love you, honey. Here, wait, real quick. Come on. Sorry, honey. All right, sorry. Just trying to move quickly here. All right, so again, this is from his Substack. I don't know where the one is about his Substack, but again, so he's literally a clown performer, right? So, all right, let's see. Phil Illy clown. Does anyone, have we been able to find out his actual name? I feel like the reason why he picked the name Phil Illy because paraphilia, philia. He's just a douche who just needs attention and who's just trying to stir up drama. And these idiots like Stella O'Malley and you know, the Pamela Yeager person. Hold on. He's literally part of an actual clown troupe. Oh, damn it. Sorry, I don't know if it's my internet that's being really slow, guys. Sorry. Whoops, hold on, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out. I wish we knew his actual last name. Yes, Simon Van Wees says clothing tailored for men. Yes, but that is the difference. All the 80s new wave punk or whatever, men, they still presented themselves as men. Exactly. They still presented themselves as men and they wore, you know, clothes that were really meant for their bodies, right? You know, unless it was like a literal like art exhibition. You know, there's a difference when it's like, okay, if it's a literal like art show or something, but you're going to like a professional conference, have some decorum. Oh, Philip Hutchinson, Cara Vogue, you are a queen. Oh my fucking God, you're a queen. Oh my God, he's not from Philly, is he? Oh no, I guess it's because of whatever. Oh my God, you're a queen. Philip Hutchinson. Cara Vogue for the goddamn win. Hutchinson, clown. Ooh, oh. Had I known that before, I could have probably done such like a deeper investigation on him. Oh. Hold on. Let's see. Come on. Oh, here we go. Autogynephilia. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I'll have to, oh man, I'll have to try to do some of this stuff. So I just want to, all right. All right. We got to just look at some of this. All right. So real quick, this is from Phil's. So again, he's like, yeah, again, he's allegedly, you know, is like a meth addiction and he does this with women. And his whole idea, like his whole thing where he was trying to say like, oh no, I really don't, you know, pursue women the way other men do. That apparently does not seem to be the case. It sounds like he has had a lot of relationships with women. So again, this is from his Substack. Okay. So yeah, autogynephilia, AGP, love, self as woman. Let me see if I can find if he has pegging anywhere. Pegged. Is it in here? It must be in here. Okay. All right, so this is the chapter 2 of auto heterosexual, blah, blah, blah. All right, so this is by Phil. This is his Substack. At the time I began to get the, I don't care about all this. At this core, autogynephilia is a sexual interest in being a woman. The DSM-5 defines it as a sexual arousal of a natal male associated with the idea or image of being a woman. Like conventional heterosexuality, male autoheterosexuality is much more than mere eroticism. Also, I don't like the like auto heterosexuality. No. Hetero means two, right? You're not it's maybe autosexual. It's not, it's not heterosexual again means you're attracted to the opposite sex. If you're attracted to yourself, you're a man. That's not you being attracted to the opposite sex. You're, again, I think, autogynephile, where it's a sexual, bizarre perversion where you're interested in yourself as the body of a woman. Yeah, thank you, Shinobu. All right, so let's see. Let's convert conventional heterosexuality, male auto-heterosexuality. So male auto, he's trying to rebrand autogynephilia as auto-heterosexuality, which makes no sense because there's no hetero in there. Hetero means, like opposite, right? Like heterogeneous versus homogeneous. Okay. Is much more than mere eroticism. Its emotional side impacts sentiments, moods, and even identity, changes how people think of gender as well as their place in it. It's all such like it's legit. Autogynephilia drives the desire to embody femininity, and its manifestations vary across individuals. No two people are exactly the same. No, that's not true. It's not about embodying femininity. Autogynephilia, in Blanchardian terms, is about actually embodying the body of a woman. It's not just femininity, okay? Again, there's, we looked at, for example, Kai Decadence. He embodies like femininity, right? Some performative aspects of femininity, whether it's like, cultural femininity, makeup. There's like true inherent femininity that it's like things that, women have, like a female's voice is a feminine voice, right? We have feminine voices. That's like true femininity. We have a feminine pelvic shape. We have feminine patterns of violence, which are not, similar to masculine patterns of violence, male patterns of violence, right? Those are like innate feminine qualities, right? But then there's like performative femininity, which is, all about, pandering to the male gaze. And it was really created by men, and it's, for, men and heterosexual kind of like, mating stuff. But no, autogynephilia is not about embodying femininity. It's about literally embodying female body parts and physical processes. Yeah, so it's like when like you get like what's his the guy, the Bailey guy who's saying they're co-signing him is like some like, oh, he's very intelligent. No, he's not. You're not even looking into this stuff to like verify anything that he's saying. He's just making stuff up. But Bailey knows how it goes. Bailey knows that that's the whole thing. You just put men in these positions of like academic, prestige. You give them access to, reading a bunch of other men who are in academic prestige so that they could justify their own sexual interests and stuff and learn more about why their dick gets hard the way that it does, because that's what interests them. And they all pass the information along. And he knows that it's always been just about justifying, male behavior, so that they can, have whatever sexual strategy they want and get around women's boundaries and sexual gatekeeping. It's all about getting around women's sexual gatekeeping. That's the whole point of all of this. Just as people vary from being unsentimental horn dogs to being true romantics, unsentimental horn dogs, like this is like a real, like legit. Autogynephilic people range from having primarily sexual feminine embodiment all the way to having a profoundly sentimental longing to simply be a woman, must show a mixture of lust and love. Depending on the way an autogynephilic person perceives their state of feminine embodiment, their mood can shift up or down. Successful embodiment tends to shift their mood up. The shortcomings of the embodiment tend to shift it down. Any stimuli. It's like, fucking all of this stuff could be said in such simpler terms. So the mark of like a pseudo-intellectual is somebody who will take a very simple concept and speak about it in totally unnecessarily complex word salad ways. Like Helen Pluckrose is the queen of that. And so is Exelantic, honestly. And the mark of a truly intelligent person is somebody who can take very complex concepts and distill it and down and communicate it in very simple verbiage. right? In very simple words, depending on the way an autogyne, successful embodiment tends to shift their mood up. No, you could just basically say like when they feel like they're actually presenting as women successfully, they feel better. It's like, come on, bro. Shifted any stimulus that implies the state of gendered embodiment can lead to these gender-related shifts of mood. Positive gender-related, he's just making shit up as he goes along. Positive gender-related feelings are gender euphoria. Negative gender-related are gender dysphoria. I want to see where he's talking about the pegging thing. Whoops. Okay, here we go. It's just like him mansplaining a bunch of nonsense. And it's also that he can pretend to be some sort of authority on this topic, right? And it's for the shock value of throwing it in gender critical spaces. And then, he totally, again, and I pointed this out before, he gets like a duper's delight smile when people are actually like buying into him. This is all crap that he just read offline. And he's just sitting around, and he's probably like, he's like charismatic. He's probably like some kind of a sociopath. Definitely some kind of a sociopath. Let's see. Erotic feminization of males is called sissification. Let's see. All right. So modern autogynephilic sexuality. Let's go through this. Today, autogynephilic people, so it's weird he like stays away from like pronouns and stuff because he knows that he's a man. He presents as a man. I don't think he has any interest in actually being a woman in any sort of way. He gets off on cross-dressing. He gets off on the attention and gets off like this has become like a grift. It's like a shtick for him. I don't think that this is like a pervasive thing. He's a clown performer, right? He's always look for people who are like performers. Like Dylan Mulvaney is an actor, right? Look for these performers. Really quick. What is it? What was his name again? Philip Hutchinson or something? Oh yeah, here we go. Hutchinson clown troupe. Wow, that's loading for the next like 12 hours. Some of them satiate their erotic desire for feminine transformation through gender transformation stories. These stories depict the fantasy of turning into a woman, often by invoking methods of cross-gender transformation that are magical or based in science fiction. Gender transformation also occurs through forced feminization, a genre in which women forcibly transform the male protagonist into a beautiful woman. I gotta go. Erotic feminization of males is called sissification. Sissification is extremely popular among autogynephilic people. For many, it's their first outlet to express their autogynephilia. This is so dangerous. To demand that people normalize this, to demand that we like bring down our boundaries and our internal alarm. And genspect is co-signing this. Genspect is all about helping them devise more sophisticated strategies to navigate around the boundaries of women. Make no mistake. Some of them even identify sissies. A lot of them watch Sissy Hypno, an autogynephilic remix of pornography that rapidly cycles through shots of various pornographic videos with voiceover speaks directly to the viewer, commanding them to feminize themselves in various ways. Genevieve Gluck has done extensive good work talking about, uncovering sissy hypno porn and the role that has in autogynephilia and stuff like that. Watching porn, I know, I don't want to leave you guys, trust me. Quite a few trans women, for a lot of autogynephilic people, sissy hypno is their most powerful erotic stimulus. So how is that a sexual orientation then? And he also talks about how he just learned about what this was a few years ago. I'm sorry, this was your sexual orientation. You would understand that this is who you are, right? Even if maybe you didn't have a word for it. It's like he learned about it and got obsessed with it as an idea and then did everything he could to embody it. But he doesn't want to make any actual changes to himself. He's not looking for hormone therapy or he doesn't even want breast implants. He doesn't even try to change his voice. He literally does nothing. He doesn't even put makeup on, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like he's just into the clothing and he's just into the shock value and it's all a performance because he's a clown performer and he's doing a clown performance. Quite a few trans women originally realized they wanted to transition after consuming sissy media. Trans woman Andrea Long Chu provocatively admitted, "Sissy porn did make me trans. She's not alone. Thousands have been down that road." Whoa, 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 whoa. I thought that you said that this was like a legitimate orientation. It's like an immutable thing. But now you're acknowledging that it's like a porn-induced kind of like perversion. So, you know, which is it? Watching porn depicting pre-op male to females is another way trans women have realized they want to transition. Let's see. And he's using, you know, she, her for total degenerates. Through continual exposure to erotic imagery of feminized males, some autogynephilic people realize they do want to be feminized. Another genre of erotic media popular with autogynephilic people is femdom, which features females or trans women positioned in an assertive, dominant role over a subject who is usually a male. Sometimes involves feminization of the male subject. Another way that autogynephilic people express their sexuality is through receptive anal penetration, through which they can enact a sex role they associate with being a female. A lot of autogynephilic, this is him telling on himself. A lot of autogynephilic people are into getting pegged by women, fucked by men, or even just penetrating themselves. He's really into getting penetrated by women, and I'm sure he's bisexual, I'm sure. It's also common for them to shave. Apparently, like him and like his like ex, I think went to like, you know, like orgies and stuff like that. This is all none of this. And the fact we're trying to like normalize this is like, oh, it's so evolved and like intellectual. It's also common for them to shave their body hair, dress up in sex. It's like it's like he's so delighted with what he can get away with. He's so delighted that, you know, all these idiot women who have all these like credentials at the end of their name are actually inviting him on and like taking him seriously. And he gets the duper's delight. It's, you know, let's see, psyche, autogynephilia, shifting, and trans feminine identity. He's saying like a lot of people do this. None of this is like groundbreaking or intelligent. Psyche, autogynephilia drives a desire to perceive, sense, feel, or think as a woman would. It's about seeing the world through a woman's eyes. It can feel like having a female soul. What in the fuck does that mean? What in the fuck does that mean? Autogynephilia can also create, so I thought you wanted to call autoheterosexuality, but now it's autogynephilia. Can also create autogynephilic phantom shifts, a sensation of having female typical phantom anatomy such as breasts, a vulva, wide hips, or long hair. Phantom shift, oh, this is so, I have to go. I love you guys. I miss you guys. I'm going to be sad. I love you. It's ridiculous. Anyone buying into this guy is a clown. And you know, genspect is a groomer organization. It's for groomers, by groomers, and the fact that, you know, they're literally claiming to, you know, help like be a resource for families and children is a massive red flag. Okay, they want to take over WPATH and they want to do WPATH the way that they want. This is a massive red flag. They're dangerous. They're dangerous. They're dangerous. Anyone who's still buying into genspect, wake the hell up. Gotta go. Love you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye. Please like the stream. Oh, and please, if you would like to donate to the channel, because I really still need to get this fixed, okay? I've like gotten some money, you know, from you guys, but I don't have enough to buy a new one. I want to get a good one. I might put up the one that I want, but you can donate on Venmo at slightlytwistedfemale@gmail.com or on Cash App at ASTF. Oh no, I'm sorry. On Cash App at @ a slightly twisted XX. Or email me if you want to talk at a slightlytwistedfemale@gmail.com. And please like the stream.